Alleluia, alleluia. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Now the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain which Jesus had ordered them. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but they doubted. And then Jesus approached and he said to them, "All power in heaven and on earth has been given to me, and therefore you are to go forth and make disciples of all nations. You are to baptize them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. You are to teach them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always until the end of the age." The Gospel of the Lord. Please be seated. Men of Galilee, why are you looking up? What are you trying to hold on to? And of course, the answer is simple. Jesus. Jesus. He died, he rose from the dead, he walked with them, and now he is going to leave. Now what do we do? Where is our security? Where is our surety? Where are our answers? What do we hold on to if we have to let go? So today we have this wonderful feast, one of the major steps in the spiritual life, and that is that of letting go. Now, there are two steps. One is to hold on, the other is to let go. I think in all of our lives, we got some things that we have to hold on to, some things we have to let go of. And at different times, it's different for us. There's a story that I wrote in the bulletin about a year ago about a young monk on the coronation of Pius XII, was told to go ring the great bell at St. Meinrad in the monastery. And they said, "Now, you've never done this before, so when you pull down on the great bell, make sure you let go, because the rope is going to go all the way up. If you forget to let go, it's going to take you up with you. It is then that you have to remember to hold on." And the poor monk forgot to do both. We need to know when to hold on. We need to know when to let go, when to hold them, when to fold them. Now, I think holding is much easier than folding. We hold on to our stocks way too long. We hold on to we hold on to so many things way too long. We are really a nation and a culture of Klingons. But we come by it naturally. I think the first thing we hold on to are our parents. When we were born, there are only two natural fears that we have. Every other fear is taught to us. All the other phobias are taught by our parents and our siblings and our culture. But the only two natural ones are fears of loud noises, and the other is the fear of falling. So when a baby's born, if you've ever picked a newborn, and they hold on tight. Why? They hold on tight because you're their security. They need to hold on. We hold on to our parents. And little kids, especially when they get to the point of separation anxiety, hold on to them for dear life. At the age of 2, when they realize how important mommy and daddy are to them, when they're separated, oh my goodness gracious me. Our whole life then becomes, though, a process of letting go, one step at a time. Not all the time, but the most difficult part of letting go of our parents, and I think it's one of the major letting goes that we need to do, is at the end of life. And I've been a priest for 40 years, and one of my great privileges is that I get to be around people who are dying, and that really is a privilege. Because so often I get to see how thin the veil is between this world and the next, and how often they see that next world, they see those who have gone before them, they see those who have died. But there is something that slows that process down, and it's the most natural process there is. We just have such a hard time with it because as children, we can't imagine life without our parents. My father died when I was 45 years old, and I can remember, I'm too young for this. I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready to let him go. And yet it was necessary to let them go. I am utterly convinced of this, and I have said this before, that we are in on our deaths. We choose the time we die according to the needs of those around us. And so when we have a sense, even if we're in a coma, Because I always believe that the most conscious or aware person in that hospital room is probably the person who's dying, but not on the level of our superficial consciousness, on the level of the soul. What they are conscious of is what they love. What do they love? They love their children. And if they sense that their children are not ready to let them go, well, then they hold on, and sometimes disastrously so. I think one of the hardest things for us as children, when that time comes, is to say, okay, I love you. It's okay. We don't hold on. We let you go. We always pray for the grace of a happy death. We were taught to do that as little children. We must continue to do that as adults and learn to let our parents go. The next group that's really hard to let go of are our children. We don't let go of them very easily because they're ours. They're the greatest gift that God has ever given to us. So we cling to our children. We have a whole new group of people called helicopter parents. You know what they are. Huh? They hover over those kids. Why? We don't want any harm to come to them. We are their security. We are the ones that have to take care of their needs, so that when they are 3, we'd better cling on to them. We better hold on to them. They better hold on to us. But there's a difference between being 3 and 23. At a certain point, if they're 25 years old and you're still buying their toothpaste, making their beds, and packing their lunch, it's time to let go. And it's so hard. It's so hard. One of the greatest pains is when young people become young adults and they are making some very bad decisions, and their parents will not let them take the consequences of their decisions. They pay their debts. They continue to enable them in their addictions because they can't let them go. I dare say in the spiritual life, the letting go is the most difficult part, and yet it is an indispensable part. And one of the reasons it's so important for parents to let go of their children is because as long as the parent is clinging on to the child, enabling the child, taking care of the child's need, adult child I'm talking about, then God can't get to them. The energy that God needs to use to get to them is being blocked by the parent because the parent's energy is in there. So one of the prayers that I always teach parents, especially parents of kids who are going in a terrible direction and they realize that no matter how hard they are trying, it's not working, is the parent's prayer. And it's a prayer of letting go. And I think it's one of the most powerful prayers that any parent can ever pray. It goes like this: Lord, before they were mine, they were yours. And I can't believe this, but I'm told that you love them even more than I do. And that you want to see them alive even more than I do, fully alive. And therefore, I give them back to you. I let go of them. I give you permission to do whatever is necessary to help them see what they obviously are not seeing right now. I only pray that you watch over them, you guard them, you protect them. The third thing we hold on to after our children and our parents is our ideas. You know, our ideas, our ideologies, our concepts, our ways of seeing things, our images, even our images of God are wonderful gifts to us. We are taught to think in a certain way, to see a certain thing. We are taught to think that our culture is the best, our gender is the best, our country is the best. We've got all these wonderful ideas. The difficulty is that there comes a point when they become counterproductive, even sometimes our images of God. Because the image of God as a little child is that, it's an image. And anytime we have an imagination of God, it's not God. You know, St. Augustine told us very clearly, any thought you have of God is not God. It's much less like God than God is. Why? Because it's too small. It cannot encompass the divine. And so sometimes we even have to let go of our childhood images before it is replaced by something much more profound, something much more powerful. The last thing we need to let go of, and I think that by far this is the most difficult, and this is the one that causes the greatest pain in the world. And that is simply this: learning how to let go of our pain, of our hurt, of those who have wounded us, of our resentments. Talk about Klingons. We cling on to these thoughts and ideas and hurts and pains and bitternesses until they take a life of their own and live within us. They now have power over us. Today, Jesus says, a power is going to come into you. You will receive power when I send it to you, but that power cannot come in as long as the house is filled. And if our house is filled with resentments and hurts and pains that we cling on to, because you know what? They feed us too, but they feed us poison. What they feed us is this feeling of being righteous and right, of feeling superior. I've been wounded and hurt, and I will hold this against you forever. You may hold on and cling on to that as much as you want to. As long as you do that, you will never receive what God wants to give you. And so we need to allow it to ascend. Let it go. Let it go. Even let it bless us, because you know what? Whatever it was, it only exists today in our mind. It does not exist in reality because it was. It's gone. Let it go. Now, once we've done that, now there's a vacuum. There's an emptiness inside of us. There's room. Room for what? Room for the Spirit. Room for God. That's the Paschal process. Our whole life is a series of letting go, receiving, holding on to it for a while, and then letting that go as well, until the final letting go of this mortal life on earth that we so cling to so tenaciously. Because as we learn to even let go of that, we begin to realize that the promise of Jesus is true. I have come for only one reason only, and that is to give you life, the fullness of life. And it belongs to those who have the courage, the power, and the faith to let go.